Thank you, Deputy Speaker. It's my pleasure to rise today to contribute to the Victoria Police Amendment Bill 2022. And look, I always feel honoured to follow the superb member for Bayswater who served the Victorian community as a police officer, and we just heard his recount of that. And he continues that service in this place, and it's always a pleasure hearing his contributions. They're always quite amusing at times. He's a great member of this government and works extremely hard for his constituents in the Bayswater electorate, and I commend him for his efforts. He's got that much energy, I don't know where he gets it from, but anyway. And I thank him for his service to Victorians, both now as a politician, but also back in his police days. And I'll go on to thank all of our police members and PSOs, especially over the last 2 years. It's been a very difficult 2 years for all of us across this state, but the police have been at the brunt of a lot of angst at different times, dealing with the difficult task, and they were often faced with abuse and intimidation from those in their communities who had fallen victim to manipulation and conspiracy theories. And we all owe our appreciation to the police and the PSOs right across the state of Victoria. I especially want to acknowledge the VicPol members in the Melton electorate led by Lisa Prentice-Evans, and they have kept us safe and who work extremely hard within our communities. Also the Bacchus Marsh police around the Bacchus Marsh Township and District for their great efforts right across that district. And in particular on International Women's Day, I especially extend my gratitude to women serving within VicPol in the many different roles and varied roles that they serve in Victoria Police. Deputy Speaker, this bill introduces a new provision into the Victorian Police Act 2013. It retrospectively validates the appointment of police members invalidly appointed to the role of Acting Assistant Commissioner by Deputy Commissioners between July 2014 and August 2021. It also validates all exercises of power by police members invalidly appointed to the role of Acting Assistant Commissioner between July 2014 and August 2021, including the power to swear in police officers and protective service officer recruits. This amendment will cure the period of time between July 2014 and August 2021 and mean that actions and conduct by affected police and PSOs, and there's around about 1,200 of them who are affected, who acted in good faith, will be considered lawful and authorised. It will also provide certainty and clarity for the affected members and for the justice sector more broadly. And the introduction of the new Victoria Police Act changed the powers of Deputy Commissioners to appoint Acting Assistant Commissioners. However, in practice, Victoria Police continued this practice, and that's why we're here today talking about this amendment to the bill. Legal advice sought by Victoria Police identified this as a potential issue in late 2020, but they believed that it was only limited to a very small number of powers used by Acting Assistant Commissioners. But further auditing and legal advice sought by Victoria Police and finalised in February 2022 identified that this issue is related to the swearing in of sworn officers by Acting Assistant Commissioners. So from that audit, it appears that 1,076 police officers and 157 protective services officers were sworn in by invalidly appointed Acting Assistant Commissioners. There was also 29 police custody officers that were also affected. So through actions taken by the Victoria Police, they've corrected this issue prospectively with the vast majority of affected officers re-sworn, and I know that they were hurriedly doing that over the last couple of weeks. And this bill will fix the issue retrospectively by making valid all the lawful conduct and use of their powers by these officers for the period between July 2014 and August 2021. So retrospective action is required to ensure that evidence-gathered enforcement outcomes from this period are not compromised by technical or administrative error. So all the sworn officers affected by this matter are well-trained officers who have exercised their powers in good faith. And I think, if we know police officers through family, through acquaintances, or have ever worked with police officers, we know they do their job diligently and in good faith. And look, in my experiences over many years, I actually worked with many police officers in the front line when I was a paramedic, and then as the secretary of the Ambulance Union, worked with the Police Association very closely. I know a lot of police officers. I know they love their job. It's a very difficult job at times, but they do it well, and they do it always in good faith to protect the community. The bill will provide certainty and clarity for all of the affected officers and for the broader justice sector. And of course, the Police Association have been engaged and involved in this issue over the last few weeks, and they support the actions of the government to provide certainty and clarity for all of their members caught up in this matter. The government, the Victoria Police, have worked closely with the Police Association to assure members that their legal, industrial and even importantly, their superannuation protections and entitlements are not diminished by this administrative error. So when the matter was brought to the attention of the Victorian Government, we acted to resolve it very quickly. And the impacted officers have always considered themselves to be sworn in. They are well trained. They have kept the community safe. This is just an administrative issue that is no fault of the officers impacted. We've moved quickly to resolve it. Victoria Police moved to re-swear the vast bulk of the 1,200 affected officers, and the government and the Victoria Police have worked closely to draft the bill and correct the matter retrospectively as well. So the administrative error shouldn't have occurred, but it has. So we have to deal with it, and we are. And we can't speak for the breakdown that occurred in 2013 when the change in legislation created this issue, but we can fix it now, and that's what we're debating here today. Deputy Speaker, we know that the key to our community safety strategy is police resourcing, and a number of members have spoken about the numbers, and I'll just reiterate some of those numbers. We've funded 3,135 new police officers. This has included general duties police working in local communities, but also in specialist officer areas. It includes hundreds of family violence police officers, and we all know how that's important in our local communities at the moment with the family violence rates. It's more PSOs for mobile patrols and new stations for our growing force. And of course, we've worked closely with Force Command on developing a new recruitment pipeline, and that includes the development of a staffing allocation model. Rather than just plucking numbers out of the air, I was nearly going to say something else then, but rather than just plucking numbers out of the air, there is a sophisticated model that allocates staffing to particular locations around the metropolitan and regional and rural areas that will deal with the population growth, the geography, the police activity and the crime trends. And that model was developed by Victoria Police with consultation with the Police Association and certainly endorsed by the government. So as of September 2021, there are 3,292 more police officers in stations and in specialist units now than what there was back in November 2014. That's a great 25% increase. And we have 344 more PSOs across our public transport network. Again, another 24% increase. There's 376 police custody officers working across the state in stations and freeing up police to be out in the community where we need our police officers to be seen. And of course, under our watch, the force has grown by 4,936 police staff, and that includes sworn officers, PCOs and VPS staff. And that amounts to a 28% increase in staffing numbers since we've been in office. So we're not just delivering new resources, but also specialist technology and equipment and capability. Things such as body-worn cameras. We've moved them out of the analogue technology and also out of the fax machine age. We've also delivered through the Family Violence Royal Commission recommendations that have led to improving the experience and impact for victims and VicPol officers being trained up in that area. So this is an important bill, an important amendment, and I want to extend my thanks to the Minister and her staff who acted quickly on this bill and put this bill before the House. I think that we can all acknowledge the errors that shouldn't have occurred, but these amendments will seek to resolve the administrative error, and I commend the bill to the House.